This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Travis, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Travis. I am a longtime Wheel of Time fan. I think I've been reading the books for almost 10 years now, and I don't know how many times I've reread. I don't even think I have enough fingers.
Is that only as high as you can count?
Yeah, that's about as high as I can count. About 9 or so.
10's where it gets difficult.
Yeah, once you get into double digits, it starts to get really confusing.
Yeah, keeping track of both digits at the same time can really be complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people who can count up to 3 digits, and it just blows my mind.
Sounds like that's not very hard. And you've been listening to us for how long now?
Since shortly after you guys got back from JordanCon, you guys did the interview with Ebony, and she posted it in the big Facebook group for the Wheel of Time. And I think I read the interview and was like, that looks like something I'd want to check out. And I didn't, because I'm horrible about following up on anything. And then I saw it again and was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. So I downloaded the podcast on the iTunes store. And I was hooked. I was hooked from like the first episode.
I was going to say, you've been participating in the Discord chat pretty aggressively since then.
Aggressively.
I'm just saying,
yeah.
you have found many a hill to die on.
I have found many a hill to die on, and I have found many people to die on these hills with me.
That's true. That is true.
That's the important part.
I think one of the reasons I wanted to invite you on is I think you've got
Bambi.
You've got some really strong opinions about the series that don't necessarily match up with me and Patrick's.
You know what? Honestly, I find myself disagreeing with you guys less and less often than I think anybody anticipates. A lot of the stuff that you guys say, I really, really agree with. There were a few times when I was listening through before I got involved in the Discord where I was like, I wish that I was there because they need to be corrected.
All right, well, here's an opportunity.
You know, we record our episodes live, and people are in Discord in a chat listening to the audio, and there's a text chat, but the text chat never stops. It's going 24 hours a day, and we're only here for like a couple hours 2 nights a week. So
and my biggest thing with the live recording text channel is that like I can think a hell of a lot faster than I can type.
It's true. When you get like, you know, somewhere between 10 and 15 people talking at once, the chat's moving so fast it's hard to even keep up.
Yeah, you go to respond to one person's comment, and by the time that you're halfway done typing, we're on a completely different subject.
Yeah. Well, it's getting popular these days. We recently broke up the chats into, again, for audio-only people, you already know this, Travis, but we recently broke up the chats into lots and lots of smaller sections to try to help break up the different conversations so that you can keep up at least with like one of the feeds, one of the many feeds.
Right, and I've definitely found that my favorite places to be are in my Aja chats, in Theories, and in Dark Friend Social. I mean,
yeah,
Gleeman's Corner does little for me. The Ranlan art collection is fun, though. I do like the art. The art is always good.
How can you not like the Light Blessed pet pics?
You know what? I completely glossed over it because as good of a channel as that is, it's not as active as the others.
I love that it's a good way to sequester all the pet pics, though.
It is a good way to sequester all the pet pics because I feel like that could derail any other channel very quickly.
Chapter 27, Tel'aran'rhiod, and our symbol is the Twisted Stone Ring.
Which is quite apt.
Yeah.
The World of Dreams, the Tel'aran'rhiod of Dreams.
The room Egwene had been given on the same gallery with Nynaeve and Elaine was little different from Nynaeve's. Her bed was a trifle wider, her table a little smaller. Her bit of rug had flowers instead of scrolls. That was all. After the novices' quarters, it seemed like a room in a palace. But when the three of them gathered there late that night, Egwene wished she were back on the novice galleries, with no ring on her finger and no hands on her dress. The others looked as nervous as she felt. They had worked in the kitchens for 2 more meals, and in between tried to puzzle out the meaning of what they had found in the storeroom. Was it a trap, or an attempt to divert the search? Did the Amyrlin know of the things? And if she did, why had she not mentioned them? Talking provided no answers, and the Amyrlin never appeared so they could ask her.
See, and I highlighted that sentence. Did the Amyrlin know of the things? And if she did, why had she not mentioned them? And I think it becomes apparent later that she didn't know. This was not something that she had any idea about. I think that there's speculation and theory out there that Lanfear actually set this up.
That's what I think that's
100%,
the conclusion me and Seth pretty much came to in the chapter where they go to the storeroom.
Because that's Else Grinwall is Selene who leads them right to that location.
Right, yeah. She walks into their room and is like, hey, the Amyrlin said that there's stuff about the Black Aja in this storeroom. Have fun.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
By the way, the Amyrlin gave me this top secret information to pass to you. Tee-hee-hee, I'll go back to my novice stuff now.
And staring at the boys because she's
come
a lazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm not going to act anything like Else actually acts. I'm going to be disdainful and arrogant. Yeah, no, there's no doubt in my mind that the Amyrlin doesn't know about this stuff. This stuff was entirely set up by Lanfear to draw the girls to the Stone of Tyr. She's been given a different room because she's been raised to accept it.
Yeah. So this next paragraph I felt like was probably going to spark a lot of debate. And basically, Perrin walks into the kitchens, or Perrin had come into the kitchens earlier, but Perrin walks into the kitchens and just kind of wanders in, staring blurry-eyed around, and then walks over to the girls and just asks them out loud if they have found anything. And they say, no, nothing but grease and sweat, Nynaeve said. Well, keep looking. She peered around the kitchen again, frowning as though puzzled to find herself there, and left.
I highlighted that section too, yeah, because it's like Bambi is saying in the chat right now, is she's full-blown brown mode. Pretend to be oblivious as hell, but you're really being super calculated and super observant.
I see that in Perrin's character too. I think that the obliviousness is mostly a play,
yes.
But she's never actually oblivious. Sanchez said
Perrin is never oblivious. Perrin knows.
It's one of our catchphrases. But this seems weird and suspicious. Seth is holding up a finger.
I have a theory.
Yeah.
So I know that Lanfear is setting up the trip, and I know that Perrin is a dark friend. And I'm wondering if one of the reasons that Perrin is so confused about being there is she is under a compulsion to check on the girls and see if they've made any progress on finding what Lanfear wants them to find.
I suspected compulsion when I read this because she walks out.
It's the confusion about where she is.
Yeah.
But I
really
think that confusion is feigned. I don't think that...
Sure.
I think that that's just how she deflects attention from other sisters looking at where she is and speculating on where she is. She's a brown with her book in her notes, or her nose in her notes, and is just completely oblivious to everything. And she happened to wander into the kitchen because whatever reason, and happened to see the girls there and was like, well, since I noticed you guys find anything? No? Oh. Okay, well, keep it up, guys. I'm going to go back to being oblivious. But she's not oblivious.
So then what was her purpose in asking them that?
See, that's where I draw a complete blank. I mean, she's interested. She has several reasons to be interested. She herself is black and does not want to be found out. So she might just be checking in on the girls to be like, hey, what clues do you guys have and how can I better cover my tracks? And two, she's also got to find out, because the Black Aja knows that she has been assigned by the Amyrlin to help these girls find the Black Aja.
Yeah.
And she's also been assigned by the Amyrlin to help these girls find the Black Aja, which means that she has two forces greater than herself telling her to keep a close eye on these girls.
That's what I think, but I wanted to throw out that other theory.
Yeah, no, the idea of her being under compulsion is super compelling.
I see what you did there.
So either compulsion or...
Orders. Yeah.
Or orders. Or just direct orders?
I really lean more heavily towards direct orders, but I don't think we have enough in the entire series to say whether it's compulsion or not. So it's just as viable a theory as anything else.
That's just a lot of Varen. We don't really know why she does what she does, and we know she has conflicting motivation. So we can assign either one of those motivations to all of her actions. And I think it's left ambiguous.
This is a little bit on an aside, but how evil do you think Varen has actually been? Do you think that she's done some pretty atrocious things as a Black?
Yes.
I think you would probably have to. I wish we could see some Black Aja meeting chapters, but we really...
I mean, the initiation is certainly the murder of an innocent.
Do you think so, really?
Yeah.
Is there proof for that, or is that just your headcanon?
There's proof of it.
I love the confidence behind that.
I don't recall, but they do have to take a test. There is definitely you don't just get into the Black.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think you just get into the Black. I don't think it's just you walk into
Welcome
the council
to the party.
And is like, hey, I want to be one of you guys. And they're like, okay, cool. They're going to... I think of it a lot like what Thurava and Savannah did with the Wise One, where she got all of the channelers together and was like, just rip this bitch to pieces, and now you're all bound to me.
Yeah, it's something like that. Except I thought it might be a little one-on-one cage match. 2 Aes Sedai enter, 1 Aes Sedai leaves.
And they both wanted to join the Black Aja. That doesn't seem like the best way to recruit, though.
Doesn't seem like it.
Because, if you have 2 women that are both trying to join the Black, and you're like, well, only one of you can join, the one of you that survives, then...
And yet, the Dark One does like competition.
Oh, I forgot. I left the oven on. I'll be right back.
So then, all right, just quickly, why do you think everyone else shows up? We can get through that.
So yeah, all these Aes Sedai show up also to kind of stare at the girls as they do their work. And I think they all come for their own reasons.
I do too. There's one more thing that I wanted to comment on just before we get to the flux of other... Well, sure. I guess it's kind of in the middle of all of that, but it's the sentence at the end of the paragraph. The first few weeks would be bad, of course, but they had to choose, or the choosing would be done for them. I think that's in response to Anaya or Alana, somebody telling them that they need to pick their classes.
Yeah,
right.
And I just kind of wanted to say that is a complete understatement, because they're about to get launched headfirst into a battle with the Forsaken and the Black Aja, which is nothing that any Accepted has ever had to undergo in their first few weeks as Accepted ever in the history of ever.
Yeah.
It's a small test.
So they're Accepted. Their first couple of weeks as Accepted are even harder than normal.
Yes.
Than they normally would be.
I'd say it's non-traditional education.
It's non-traditional. I think they honestly would prefer it, though. Looking back, they'd probably prefer it to, getting a few beatings from Shiriam.
Yeah, totally. They like what they're doing. It's some part of all their characters wants to do it.
Definitely a pass-fail test when you go up against the Forsaken.
Sam says Swan chooses. He chose for them the Black Aja hunting class.
Yeah. It's a lab.
It's a lab.
But that leads us right into, like you were saying, Alana shows up and asks Egwene if she wanted to know more about the Green Aja. And I think that, well, we speculated about Alana before. Alana wants to be connected to events, and she keeps popping up because she's interested in being close to the important goings on. But I think, okay, this is just my headcanon, but I think Alana believes that each of the 3 girls, who are 3 of the most powerful channelers found in 100 years or whatever, are all really good candidates for the Green Aja. The Green Aja has a good chance to pick up 3 really powerful channelers.
Absolutely. And I think we hashed this out. I mean, 2 of them do pick the green, and one of them even heavily considered picking the green.
Yes.
And I think that's why Alana's saying, hey, go ahead and pick up the pace and get your classes done so you can graduate. So you can join the green.
You can be one of my sisters in Aja.
Yeah. have you thought about this more? You want some lessons? Pick your lessons. What do you want to do about your lessons? And she's like,
have you heard about our Lord and Savior?
Our Lord and Savior, the Green Aja.
And that could also be a little bit of a play at like, well, if you can't think of something, maybe I can come up with something for you. Like, why don't you come visit me? We'll talk about this, and I'll take you under my wing.
And I can guide you to the Green Aja.
Right, to where I want you to be.
And I also think with Alanna that the speculation that she wants to be part of events is real, because she was accepted the same time Moiraine and Swan were. And like if you read New Spring, I completely drew a blank there, Jesus. She noticed that they were always up to something, and I think that I remember her always wanting to be a part, even then, as a novice or as an accepted.
A part of the
just a part of things, of whenever other people are doing big things or grouping together, she wants to be included.
Yeah, I guess Alanna... I always thought of Alanna as being a little bit of a puppet of Varen's.
But Alanna's stronger than Varen, isn't she? Like, Alanna technically stands higher in the White Tower hierarchy than Varen does.
Technically, but Varen's so much older.
And much more subtle.
More experience, and much more subtle, and all that kind of stuff. That Alanna might think she's in charge, but Varen's the one who's in control.
Right. Like, Varen might have to follow a direct order, but Varen can also guide Alanna to give the right orders.
I like that. I think in the future there are a lot of places in the book where Varen and Alanna are together, and Alanna's kind of the hammer, and Varen's sort of...
the hand that guides
the
it.
hand. Yeah.
I see it. One other thing I wanted to say about Alanna, and then we can move on to Anaya or whatever, is that she has an interest in being a part of things, but even more so, she has an interest in the three boys, especially Rand. And she sees these two girls, particularly with Egwene and Nynaeve, and I guess, in a way, Elaine. She might not know the connection with Rand and Elaine yet, but she sees that as a way into connection with Rand. Like,
your cat's hilarious. I'm listening, but it's funny.
Yeah, I think she's super interested in bonding one of the three as a warder.
Oh, absolutely. She wants to be tied to one of those Ta'veren. I don't know if she knows yet that they're Ta'veren, but she knows they're important. She was in Fal Dara when the Amyrlin had private counsel with each one of them individually.
And can I just say, I think she might be a little attracted to him.
Oh, definitely. I think there was even a comment made by her. I think that she even comments later in the series that, like, she secretly, or, like, in her own way, wanted Rand to love her, and that's part of why she bonded him.
Moving on to Elaida, who just walks into the kitchen and puts her hands on her hips and stares at them for a while and walks out.
What? All right.
I don't know.
Because she's a spiteful bitch.
Yeah.
I think part of it is she just wants Elaine to know that, like, I'm still hovering over you. You will never escape me. Like, she wants Elaine under her thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Shiriam's just, like, kind of pissed that she has to punish them, and she's coming in to glare at them a little bit.
Right. Well, I mean, and she's mistress of novices, but she's still over the accepted as well. So she has to keep her eye on them. And with Anaya, I think Anaya, her mom instincts kicked in. Like, she was just like, you guys are being treated so harshly for... I don't know. I feel like Anaya is just like, what's actually going on here?
And I think Anaya is pretty much what she appears to be. Other than, maybe she's the head of the Blue. That might have some...
I think Lelaine is the head of the Blue. I don't think Anaya is.
Is this right? I think there's speculation that Anaya was at one point the head of the Blue, but perhaps not anymore.
I'm pretty sure it's Lelaine, though. I mean, she's one of the most powerful members of the Blue Aja, aside from Moiraine and Swan, and she's got the age for it. She's a sitter in the hall. I feel like Lelaine is the head of the Blue.
And isn't it a secret?
Yes. Nobody knows except the Aja. Nobody's supposed to know except the Aja itself. And maybe the Amyrlin. That's a good idea, Lauren, that Anaya might be watching over the girls because of Moiraine. Because Anaya and Moiraine are both Blues, and Anaya wants to get them into the Blue Aja.
Yeah, and doesn't Egwene note that Anaya is the only one that she has like a kind of look of concern on her face when she is walking through?
Yeah, it says Anaya stood the same way, but her look was more concerned. Until she saw them glancing at her. Then her face became a match for Elida's and Shiriam's before her.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I think she's just kind of, maybe partly looking after Moraine's project and partly she just cares as a human,
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two because she's always described as being very motherly.
Also, this hasn't come up yet and it just popped into my head. All of those women that showed up were all at Egwene's testing the night before, right?
Yeah,
Shiriam,
all of them were.
Elida, Anaya, and Alana.
Mm-hmm.
And Alana felt particularly bad. Like she tried to, she asked Swan if she could join the girls in the kitchen the next day. And of course Swan said, no, you can't scrub pots. That's ridiculous. You're an Aes Sedai.
Be a grown woman.
But she does show up anyway just to kind of look after them. So it's, it's also possible that all these women are walking through, I'm sure they have their own personal motivations, but they're all walking through to just, look at them and see if they're still healthy.
Yeah,
particularly Egwene.
Particularly Egwene after everything that went down with the rings malfunctioning the way they did.
It's interesting. So sorry, I'm just looking up for a selector, head of the Blue Ajah.
In New Spring, it was Edith who was a sitter of the Blue.
Sam is saying in Discord that people suspected it was Anaya, but it's been Lelaine all along. Is that what you're saying, Sam?
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the speculation on Anaya being the head is because she was part of the Saladar 6. As was Morel, who ends up being the Captain General of the Green for the Rebels.
But we only know for sure that Lelaine was the head of the Blue. We never are told for sure that Anaya is the head.
Yeah, we never get any other confirmation.
So I guess, I've been reading this as though Anaya was the head of the Blue, which is why she's showing so much interest in these girls.
It's very feasible.
So, but that's, yeah, you're right. I don't have any proof for that.
In any case, she's an important member.
Right.
As one of the more powerful Aes Sedai there are.
Yeah. And isn't she, incredibly gifted with healing, too?
Yeah. And Elaine's talking about how she wants to join the Green Ajah so she can get married one day, and how great it would be if her first consort could be, and she trailed off, and of course she's thinking about Rand.
Of course.
Rand's cutie.
And Egwene has a little pang of jealousy, but she kind of talks herself out of it. She doesn't want her friend, though, to have to marry the Dragon Reborn, in an incredibly sad end to that thought paragraph.
She's definitely thinking, I can't be with him because he's the Dragon Reborn, so nobody can be with him because he's the Dragon Reborn. There's definitely a bit of flawed...
Yeah, and that it's incredibly dangerous.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's less of, nobody can be with him, and more of, anybody that falls in love with him is also falling into massive heartbreak. I think that it's less, vindictive and more protective.
Totally agreed. Yeah. That's what the way I wanted to say it.
She was almost beginning to dislike White as much as she did Grey, talking about Egwene. We know that she hates Grey because of her time as a Damani, and she's starting to hate White because she's stuck in a white dress and scrubbing pots, and it's gross. And does she ever wear white or gray as Amyrlin?
Oh, fun question.
I think she does occasionally wear white. No, I guess when she's Amyrlin, she's also a novice, right? So Elida puts her back into whites.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. But when she was Amyrlin of her own volition and not captive under the Red Witch.
She never wears gray again, that's for sure. And I think she tends to avoid the white because she doesn't want to look young.
I seem to recall her wearing a lot of green for the Ajah she would have picked. Am I right on there? I think I'm right on that.
And a little bit of red. Yeah. Some blue. I think she wears some blues. But no, I don't think she ever wears white again.
I think she might even do some yellow. I know that she rocks red when she unites the tower.
Right. And picks a red as her second.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, she gained mad respect for Sylviana.
Who does she pick as her... Who does she pick again?
Sylviana.
Sylviana's a red sister, the one who beats... She's the mistress of the novices.
She was the mistress of novices under Elida.
Okay. Oh, Sylviana's a real name. Real name again, messing up my Google search.
I also know here that people are still shipping Aglad.
Well, yeah, because that's what should have happened.
Totally. But, this is post... I wanted to point out that this is post Elaine's talk to Egwene, where I thought Egwene had switched over to Gawain. But here she's still mooning after Gallet.
Yeah, she still moons after Gallet a little bit. I don't think that she really starts to get super attached to Gawain until she runs into him in Kyrian, I want to say, after training with the Wise Ones.
I mean, I know they're definitely together there, but I thought she was like fantasizing and dreaming about him long before then.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, but Gamma Kinsey, I think that's the part right there where she like has the naughty dream of Gawain, and that's what completely shifts her. Like that's when she goes from Galad to Gawain, complete 180.
Yeah, I think it that seed is already in her mind.
Yeah.
And
this is just the water that made it sprout, I think.
Also, at this point, she's starting to mess with the world of dreams, and then at some point, I'm pretty sure they're sleeping with each other in their dreams.
Oh yeah,
for a long
quite
time.
A while.
Yeah.
Mackenzie says in the live recording text that his dream finds her, and then she's done. Which I think I do remember that being the way that it happened.
But that only happens if the two parties are attracted to, have strong feelings for each other.
It doesn't have to be two parties. It only has to be one party. If she had strong feelings about Gawain, or if Gawain had strong feelings about her, they could intersect. And they don't have to be positive feelings either. They can be hatred or anger too.
Right.
Like, I'm sure that if Egwene veered too close to Elida's dreams, she would get sucked in pretty hard too.
Yeah, I can buy that.
Sure.
I like that they get together in the world of dreams. First couple of hookups are
I'm nodding.
Egwene, that's not an ethical use of power.
So to debate that, would you say that it happens in the world of dreams, or would you say that it happens in Gawain's dream, which are two completely different places?
Yeah, it's in Gawain's dream.
Yeah, I think it's her going into his dream.
It didn't happen in Tar.
No.
Oh, right. I was saying that, but I was, know what I meant.
The only reason that's important, and I hate that I have to say this, is that it means, like, physically she's still a virgin.
Yes. She still has her maidenhead.
Yes.
If they had had sex in Tel'aran'rhiod, then she would no longer be a virgin.
Can you get pregnant in Tel'aran'rhiod?
No.
I would say if you're both there in the flesh. Otherwise, no.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
Well, yeah, obviously. No. But, I mean, things that happen to you happen, and we see that poison can affect you.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say no. I want to say no to this because your physical body didn't actually have sex, and the physical ejaculation never happened.
That's what I would think.
But, okay, here's an example. Perrin wakes up and he's splashed with the bodily fluids of the man who was skinned.
Oh, shit.
And the bodily fluids transmitted from one location to the other.
That's true. He wakes up and covered in blood.
I don't know. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that if they did the do in the world of dreams and they weren't there in the flesh, that nobody's getting pregnant.
I'm smirking at this whole conversation, guys.
I mean, certainly not in a dream, but in the world of dreams?
Only if they were there in the flesh. I'm just going to stick with only if they were there in the flesh.
Does that count as abstinence? We should probably move on. So Nynaeve busts out the pouch with the ring.
Way to change the subject.
Right. They offer to go with Egwene, and Egwene lays out all these reasons why they shouldn't.
Says it may not work and we won't know, we'll have wasted time.
And I have that part highlighted too. Nynaeve handed her the pouch, a long, thin strip of leather. Perhaps it will work for more than one at once. I could go with you, perhaps. And I think that's just pure, big-hearted, loving, protective mother lion Nynaeve to the core. I feel like she just loves Egwene so much and can't fathom the idea of sitting there helpless while something potentially dangerous and violent could happen to her.
I think you're right.
Mother hen Nynaeve?
Oh yeah, mother lion Nynaeve. She is more than a hen. That woman is a lion.
Man, hens are dinosaurs. Don't mess with them.
I wanted to bring up, do we think the stone ring could work on two people at once?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so either.
It'd be really hard to make it touch two people simultaneously while they were sleeping.
While falling asleep, yeah.
I mean, I guess if you both had it in your hand.
Like if you were holding hands and it was locked in between your two hands, maybe, possibly. Or like squeezed in between your arms.
But like when we see Sylvie pull it away from Egwene here eventually, I feel like then you'd have to be holding hands in the dream the whole time as well.
Well, I don't think that it has to have constant contact with you. I don't think it's so much that Sylvie pulled the dream ring off of Egwene. I think that Sylvie, as Lanfear, just literally forced her out of Tel'aran'rhiod the same way that we see the Wise Ones do to her later when she starts her training.
I think she does it with more pain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because she's spiteful and masochistic. Or I should say sadistic, rather.
We'll get there, though.
Mm-hmm.
Egwene wants them to stay there and be awake because she's afraid to go to sleep alone.
Yeah. And Nynaeve hums her to sleep using her mother's lullaby, which we see her do a lot. Like when they're being beaten in jail, she uses that again.
Yeah.
And I noticed that she's thinking about Rand and Perrin as she goes to sleep, and that's who she sees. And I wonder if those are at all related.
Maybe. Nynaeve began to hum softly. Egwene recognized the nameless, wordless tune her mother used to hum to her when she was little. When she was lying in bed, in her own room, with a fluffy pillow and warm blankets, and the mingled smells of rose oil and baking from her mother, and... Rand, are you all right? Perrin? Who was she? Sleep came. She stood among rolling hills, quieted with wildflowers and dotted with small thickets of leafy trees in the hollows and on the crests. Butterflies floated above the blossoms, wings flashing yellow and blue and green, and two larks sang to each other nearby. Just enough fluffy white clouds drifted in a soft blue sky, and the breeze held that delicate balance between cool and warm that came only a few special days in spring. It was a day too perfect to be anything but a dream.
Where is this place?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, it reminded me a lot of Nynaeve's third test. And she wakes up and or not wakes up, but she, comes into this place and she's standing on this hill full of butterflies. It's a peaceful place that, for some reason, both Egwene and Nynaeve imagine.
I always imagined it as sort of an idyllic set of hills outside the two rivers. But rereading this, I think it's more of an idyllic dreamscape. It's like what she thinks a dream should look like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's kind of what I got out of it. I also highlighted, just for the keep an eye out for it section, was like butterflies and larks show up in the world of dreams, because there was a big conversation a few weeks ago about what animals do and don't appear in the world of dreams.
Yeah, I noticed there was a cardinal in here as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And generally animals don't appear in the world of dreams.
Domesticated animals don't. So you won't see horses, you won't see cattle, you won't see dogs and cats. The elephants in the circus don't show up because those particular elephants have been domesticated. But we see lions and wolves are a different situation because they're so deeply connected. But
and the wolves do hunt, like deer and such.
Right, and there's deer and we see boar and we do see other animals.
So we're agreeing that they occur there naturally.
Yes.
And this isn't just Egwene's projection. This is like an actual place in Tel'aran'rhiod. She didn't make this happen.
Yeah.
Just to see if she could, she opened herself to the one power. Saidar filled her. We have had many conversations about this
Oh, yeah.
on Discord.
Is this where we're getting into it?
I think this is where we're getting into it.
I wanted to comment on the fact that Egwene looked at her dress and it had a panel of white, and she changed it to green because she hates white.
Being a novice kind of sucked.
Yeah.
This debate we've been having is one of perception, I'd say, more so than reality. So the idea is, if in the world of dreams you show up and you channel, are you tapping in to true one power, or are you tapping into a dream equivalent of it and creating the power with your mind because you expect it to be there?
Yeah. And in short, are you channeling because you believe that you're channeling, or are you actually tapping into the one power and channeling?
Nodding.
I understand the question, and I understand both sides of it, and I think there's absolutely no question as to where I fall.
this is one of Travis's hills.
This is one of my hills.
Yes. And so which side of the hill do you fall on?
I fall on the hill that claims that the one power in Tel'aran'rhiod is real. I think that it's spelled out pretty clearly right here. I mean, the author obviously has to work through the perception of his characters, but the author also has to be able to convey facts. He has to be able to info dump. And I make that argument here, where just to see if she could, she opened herself to the one power. Sayadar filled her. Even here it was present. She channeled the flow lightly, delicately, directed it into the breeze, swirling butterflies into fluttering spirals of color, into circles linked with circles. Abruptly, she let it go. There was no, she stopped thinking about it. There was a process that she went through of embracing the source, of channeling the flow the way that she normally would in the real world, and then letting it go when she realized that, oh shit, I don't know if there's a Myrddraal here that can feel me channeling.
All right, here's my counter argument. And I will say I agree with you.
No, yeah.
So you're playing devil's advocate.
Compelling.
But I'm playing devil's advocate because I think it has some holes, right? I mean, first of all, the physical body is in fact channeling for a lot of these women when they're in the world of dreams, and they're only able to channel spirit in the physical world. And they are actually connected to the one power constantly while in the world of dreams.
Those of them that are using the Dreamweaver Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yes, the Dreamweaver Tel'aran'rhiod. So obviously not true with this one, but for all of those women, how are they both embracing the source in the real world and using spirit, and then also embracing it in Tel'aran'rhiod and channeling various other powers?
I would explain it with their physical body, their physical sleeping body is channeling spirit, because that's the only of the five powers that you can channel while sleeping.
Right.
But their conscious mind and soul technically is the part of them that goes into Tel'aran'rhiod. And their conscious mind and soul can still channel.
I will say, up until this point, I've been on the other hill, on the opposing hill, on the hill that opposes Travis's hill.
We all live in a
that
illusion.
In the dream, nothing is real. Nothing at all is real. But it's real and it's not at the same time. So what is real is what you make real. So my thinking was always that, for instance, I always use this kind of analogy where we all remember that point in the series where, in a panic, I believe it was Egwene runs into Perrin during a battle in Tel'aran'rhiod and fires balefire at him, and he slaps it out of the air. I always say dramatically, he just holds his hand up and stops it. And he says, oh, it's just a weave, and she can't imagine how that's possible. Now, that still doesn't disprove the other hill. But my thinking is that if Perrin wanted to, he could channel in the world of dreams. But why would he? Because he would have to go through this whole learning process that the girls have to go through to channel in the real world, how to make the weaves, how they work. And so for Perrin, it doesn't make any, even though it is possible for him to channel, because all he would have to do is believe he was doing it, he would still have to know how in order for the mechanics to work in the same way. The thing is, Perrin doesn't need to channel in Tel'aran'rhiod because he can kind of skip that step.
Yeah, he can impose his will strongly enough that he doesn't need to do all that.
And I suppose that is my argument, that if a counter argument, that if someone could learn to channel in Tel'aran'rhiod who could not channel in the real world, then it would be just an illusion and something you do with your mind.
Right.
However, if that's not possible, then you're actually connecting to the real world and channeling the real one power when you channel in Tel'aran'rhiod.
So I would say that, like the line that Travis read, just to see if she could, she opened herself to the one power, Sedar filled her. So Egwene's in this headspace where she says, well, this works in the real world. Let's see if it will work here. And of course it does. Everything works here. and everything even works the same, feels the same, because she already knows what it should be. And it's not a stretch for her mind to do that, to do the stuff that she does all the time anyway.
Whereas I'm thinking, well, I go back to the constants, right? There's Tel'aran'rhiod is one constant, the creator and the one power is another, and the dark one and the true power is the third. And by opening herself up to the one power, she's actually connecting to another constant of the universe.
Yeah.
And that's why it's different than anything else, because it is one of the three constants. And Tel'aran'rhiod is the other one.
But another thing that always comes into my mind when we're having this conversation is, what of you is in the world of dreams? So your body stays in the real world. Right. What is that goes into the world of dreams? It's representation of you.
Certainly your mind goes.
Like your mind, your soul?
Does your soul go as well? And I think it does, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to be killed.
This was a question for Robert Jordan from a guy named Napoleon Copland. The part of the dreamer, and this is the response from Robert Jordan. The Napoleon Copland, the part of the dreamer that enters Tel'aran'rhiod can be thought of as the dreamer's consciousness, but it is, in any case, not corporate. That is, it has no physical reality outside of Tel'aran'rhiod. A dreamer might make a gateway from the unseen world to the waking world, but there would be nothing physical that could step through and exist outside of the unseen world.
Right.
Your soul goes, your consciousness goes. It's not your physical body. It's a projection of yourself.
And yet alterations to your soul and mental capacity can have effects on your body in the real world.
Yes.
Right? Because if someone stabs you, that affects your body.
So interview, question from Ted Herman. How was Nynaeve able to channel fire when she slept in the Ravin scene, Fires of Heaven, chapter 55? Robert Jordan responded with, in Tel'aran'rhiod, you can channel fire. You can channel spirit only from your sleeping body, but being in Tel'aran'rhiod is different, and you can channel anything.
Sure, because you can imagine anything.
You can channel anything.
Yeah, I know. I think you're reading too much into his words. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it's settled one way or the other.
I don't know. It seems like a pretty solid quote from Robert Jordan. And I totally get that, and I see that. And it's such a compelling argument, because somebody who expects to be able to channel would be able to channel because they believe it in their heart of hearts. They just know it's there, and there you go.
Yeah, that's the other side of the argument.
Right, and I totally get it. I definitely don't want people to think that when I'm hashing out my side of the argument and I'm standing firm on my hill and I'm taking these arrows to the heart, that I'm not also listening to the message tied to these arrows.
I mean, again, when we talk about, that's the wonderful thing about headcanon. You know, this is one of those things where you literally cannot...
Yeah.
You cannot find evidence one way or the other, so... you get to decide on which hill you want to die on.
Exactly. A few other things that compel me to say that channeling in Tel'aran'rhiod is real is that Slayer wanted to be able to channel. He asked the Dark One for that power. That's why he became a Dark Friend. Or that's why Luke Mantier became a Dark Friend, because he wanted the Dark One to grant him the ability to channel. But instead, he gave him the ability to enter Tel'aran'rhiod, where he could have even more control over reality than channeling. Because he couldn't give him channeling. But if Luke wanted to channel, then when he's in Tel'aran'rhiod, being a master of Tel'aran'rhiod the way that he is, why doesn't he just channel?
I agree with you, but the counter argument is he doesn't know how to channel. So,
but he can will it. He can will it to pretend that he's channeling. You know what I mean? Like, whatever his psychological image of channeling is, he can project, but he never does.
He could, for instance, like throw a fireball if he wanted to.
Correct.
We don't see him do anything like that, but...
Well, and here's the other argument, that in Tel'aran'rhiod, the further away from reality you get, the harder it is to maintain the change. Tel'aran'rhiod wants to revert back to normal. And channeling being reality, there is none of that, like, pressure to revert back to normal when you're trying to channel.
No, because channeling is real. Whereas it does defy your will when you're trying to make a hallway in the White Tower basements collapse on Masana.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you can then channel into that same hallway and, using Earth, make it collapse onto Masana.
If you're out there and you're interested in having these conversations, there's a link on the Patreon page. You don't have to pay to join the conversation. You can just join it.
The next thing is really encountering Perrin.
Yeah.
So she takes a step, and I do think she steps to Perrin because that's what she was thinking about when she fell asleep.
Yeah, probably. She also has the thought, well, I'm not learning anything here. Maybe I should just look around. She steps and she sees a wolf laying on the floor by Perrin, which is also possibly a good way to learn about Tel'aran'rhiod would be by hanging out with these wolves.
It's true.
Not that that's where Egwene's plot goes, but...
No. And this is Hopper.
Yeah. It could be Tel'aran'rhiod responding to that.
My question is, why does Hopper approach her so aggressively?
He's protecting Perrin.
I don't think he knows who she is. Wait, does he? Have they met? Did they meet in real life?
Yeah, they met in real life.
I think they did.
Like, Egwene was there when Elias and Perrin and Dapple and Hopper and Byrne all met.
That's right. She was there when Hopper died.
Well, I mean, just as I read this, the way she perceives the wolf uncurling and standing up and coming over to her, the wolf's teeth looked as big as knives, and she freaks out.
I mean, she could just be projecting her own fear.
I think she's
of
just
being
projecting.
Caught off guard seeing the wolf there.
Totally. That's what I think. I think he's just getting up and, like, saying hi, you know, because often when I go out with Timber, people are like, "Oh my God, your dog," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's saying hi to you."
He's a fluff.
Yeah, like, so, you know, I think that's a little bit of what's going on here.
I buy it.
And of course, then with Perrin, he's preventing himself from experiencing the wolf dream by holding himself in chains.
I was wondering what that was. He's sitting in an inn, but there's a piece of stone in the floor, a stone pillar, a black stone pillar.
He's leaning against a stone pillar in the middle of the inn.
Yeah.
And he's wrapped around with chains, but there's no lock on the chains. He's just holding the ends, and he's holding as tight as he can.
Yeah, the chains go through these anchors on the floor basically, and he's like holding the ends of them so that way the rest of the chain like squeezes him against this pillar, so he can't move. Like he's holding himself prisoner.
And I think that's an analogy for, you know, Perrin has these great abilities in Tel'aran'rhiod, and he is literally preventing himself from using them or experiencing them. So when he's asleep and in Tel'aran'rhiod, he's doing everything he can to hold himself in check and just wrapping himself up in chains.
Yeah. Yeah, he yells, "No, Egwene," and the door swung shut before her face, and total darkness enveloped her. Does he push her out?
I think Egwene was backing up. I think that Egwene was already backing out, and she wanted to be away from there, so she just swung to the next place.
From what I'm reading, she stands out in front of the door. The door swings open, she sees stuff, and then the door swings shut.
Yeah.
But she had walked into the room, because I think there's some, I'm looking for it right now, but I think that
she stepped into the room, yeah.
She backed out.
Yeah. Perrin, she said willingly, she stepped into the room. Blah, blah, blah. Sometime later, Egwene hastily stepped back out into the hall in spite of herself.
No, you know what, Leia? I highly agree with you. I think that her very rough control of Tel'aran'rhiod right now is like bouncing her around with her thoughts and her need. Like she's looking for something that can help her with her overall mission, but her overall mission is so undefined right now, and it's just like protecting her friends, and Perrin and Rand are her friends, so of course Tel'aran'rhiod's going to take her to them.
Well, and she hasn't invoked a need yet.
No, I think it's a subconscious thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, I think she's just going to the people she was thinking about when she fell asleep. Yeah. So we see her go to Perrin, and then after a moment, she then ends up being taken to Rand.
I also thought, I said this already, but I also thought that the first time she jumps, she's thinking about learning more about Tel'aran'rhiod and
she goes
the
to
things
the
that she needs to learn. Yeah, and she shows up beside Perrin and Hopper, who are on the same journey. Well, not the same journey, but you know what I mean. Learning about the world of dreams. I don't think Hopper is about to attack Egwene. I think he's maybe suspicious.
She's like, she gets to a point where she's like, everything that I've done before, I was just jumping from place to place. But I think that when she was jumping from place to place, like when she jumped to Perrin, like you said, she was looking for something that could help her make sense of Tel'aran'rhiod. And that's why she went to Perrin and the wolves. And then when she jumped to Rand after that, it was more of a, I feel unsafe, I need to feel safe, and where else in Tel'aran'rhiod is she going to feel safe than with Rand, who was ultimately going to be her husband and protector, and who she still sees in some ways as that, even if she's moving away from that.
Oh yeah, totally. I think we saw that in the conversation, or during her conversation with Elaine, in that little paragraph where her thought paragraph.
Yeah, where she has to fight the jealousy off a little bit.
Mm-hmm. See, still, those kind of feelings don't go away so easily.
No, they don't.
It hasn't been very long. The only one there was a tall young man, sitting and staring into the flames. Rand. Those flames did not burn wood. They did not burn anything that she could see. The fire danced above a bare patch of ground. She did not think they even scorched the soil. Before she could move, Rand raised his head. She was surprised to see he was smoking a pipe, a thin ribbon of tabac smoke lifting from the bowl. He looked tired, so very tired. "Who's out there?" he demanded loudly. "You've rustled enough leaves to wake the dead, so you might as well show yourself." Egwene's lips compressed, but she stepped out. "I did not," she thinks. "It's me, Rand. Do not be afraid. It is a dream. I must be in your dreams." He was on his feet so suddenly that she stopped dead. He seemed in some way larger than she remembered, and a touch dangerous, perhaps more than a touch. His blue-gray eyes seemed to burn like frozen ice.
Did you say frozen ice?
Oh, frozen fire. Oops. "Do you think I don't know it's a dream?" he sneered. I know that makes it no less real." He stared angrily out into the darkness as if looking for someone. "How long will you try?" he shouted at the night. "How many faces will you send? My mother, my father, now her."
So who do you think is sending dreams against him?
Ishamael.
And Lanfear, probably.
I don't think Lanfear is.
Not yet?
No, because Lanfear still wants to help him as much as she can and, like, win him over. I don't think that she's trying to fuck with his head on that extreme level yet.
What about Bilal?
Oh, how did we forget Bilal? He's doing stuff to Rand's dreams right now, too.
Yeah, we just see so little of Bilal in Tel'aran'rhiod, and we see Tel'aran'rhiod tied to him so often. I think it's easy to dismiss.
So do we think that all these visitations that Rand is referencing in this scene are all constructions of Ishmael?
I think so. And I think in those instances, it's not when he's just walking Tel'aran'rhiod the way he is now. I think in those instances, Ishamael has pulled him into a dream shard.
That could be. And now that you guys say that, I don't think we've seen Lanfear visit Rand in his dreams yet.
And we know he hasn't warded his dreams yet, so pretty much anyone can get in.
Yeah, that's true as well.
And I think any dreams with Callandor are the ones that Bilal is sending. So anytime Rand is dreaming of the sword or glory or the heart of the stone, that's Bilal sending him dreams. Anytime his family is trying to poison him or kiss him, I do see evidence of Lanfear visiting him here. With
the pretty girl that tempted him with more than just a kiss?
Yeah. My mother gave me honey cake with the smell of poison in it. My father had a knife for me, and she, doesn't specify who, she offered kisses and more. And I'm pretty sure that's Land.
Which I do agree with you in the sense that it could very likely be Lanfear. My other speculation is that it could be Ishamael projecting Elaine or Min.
That was my first thought, but now reading it again, everyone else tries to kiss him, or everyone else tries to kill him. She just offers him kisses and power and sex. That is Lanfear.
Yeah.
I think that's actually Lanfear visiting.
She tries to feed into the most animalistic desires of the people around her because she's so rooted in those herself.
It's all about the one power, sex, and rock and roll.
Yeah, oh, totally. She is, like, I've always kind of pictured Lanfear as Lana Del Rey.
Seth is looking around. It's a famous musician.
Do you not know Lana Del Rey?
Isn't Del Rey a publishing company?
No, Lana Del Rey is, I mean, it might be, but Lana Del Rey is like, she's a goddess. We don't deserve her.
No, you're totally right. I feel like Lanfear looks a lot like that.
Well, Obscure, you said all I want to do is get high by the beach. I'm thinking of the song where she is like money, power, glory. Like, I feel like that is her jam. That one, and I fucked my way to the top. Like, I feel like that is Lanfear to the nines.
Yeah, but I don't think Lanfear ever fucks anyone she doesn't want to.
No, but I'm pretty sure that she made people think she did.
She tries to tie him in a bit of air just to make him listen, which is typical stubbornness from her. And he cuts her weaves, which I thought was interesting.
With a sword.
Well, with the one power sword.
Right. But I just thought it was interesting. Doesn't prove or disprove anything, but I like the imagery because it's kind of a lot of what I think about when we're having that conversation about channeling in Tel'aran'rhiod, where Rand uses what he knows how to use to do something with the one power. So, I mean, it stands to reason that he could do that in real life. He could cut a flow of the power with a sword made out of the one power. Why not?
Right, especially because his sword, it's a projection of fire, but I'm pretty sure that there's some spirit in there too. And spirit
Agreed.
is what's generally used to cut weaves.
I was just going to say that you need spirit to cut weaves. So I'm assuming, well, I was going to say it's maybe like a little sheath of spirit around his sword of fire.
I think it's just interwoven fire and spirit together to make the sword itself.
You were going to listen to me, Rand al'Thor, if I have to sit on you. I thought for a moment, like, how does he not know it's her when she says that, Lanfear would never say, if I have to sit on you.
Yeah, she wouldn't.
Or maybe she would.
No, she wouldn't. I mean, not in that context.
Rand actually has a flashback to this scene and thinks that, oh God, it really was her. I almost killed her.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
He does, almost immediately after this.
Like, he wakes up and he's like, oh my God, I almost killed Elaine. That was really her. Or Gawain.
She gathers up Saidar and tries to make an air net, and Rand cuts the flow. Rand laughed. I learn, you see, when it works.
Now, pause for a minute, because he does this to Egwene, not knowing what she does. And later on, in this very book, him and Lanfear duke it out in the halls of the Stone of Tyr, and she does the same thing to him, and he damn near shits himself, like, how did you even do that? That shouldn't be possible. But he did the same thing to Egwene right here.
He's a little nuts.
You think it's like a pressure insanity thing right now? Or do you think that it's just an inconsistency in the writing?
I just think I don't even know if he knows what he did. He saw something coming, he cut it.
I was just about to suggest that.
He wouldn't be conscious that that Lanfear even could do the same thing to him.
And perhaps, if you kind of try to look at this from his perspective, maybe he just thinks that she's afraid of the sword.
No, because he felt it slice the weaves. Like, I'm pretty sure that he felt it slice the weaves because, like, Egwene...
He says I learn, yeah.
Yeah, and Egwene feels her threads sliced and recoil back into her.
Yeah.
But when he can regularly hold Saidin Leia, he does these things with it that he has no, like, knowledge of at all. Like, it's almost like muscle memory slowly coming back to him.
That's a good way to explain it.
When Lanfear does it to him, I think it's a little bit like getting punched in the face. And you're like, oh, what? Wait, I didn't know you could do that. Like, there's just that little bit of like, even though you've punched someone in the face, maybe you never realized what it felt like.
Somebody else could punch you back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was a little bit of like, even though he's cut the weaves, he never realized someone else could cut his weaves.
Like the epitome of arrogance.
Oh, yeah. Well, if Rand's nothing if not arrogant.
That's true.
Then she flickers off again.
Yeah, heads back to her original landing site, the perfect dreamscape.
And she starts thinking about Rand while she's there.
Yeah, I thought this little line was interesting. She took another long breath to calm herself. The only way to help him is to gentle him, she muttered, as well go ahead and kill him. Her stomach twisted and nodded. I'll never do that. Never.
I think that's a reference to her testing.
Oh yeah, that was earlier today.
Oh, yeah. Well, she says, Light, why couldn't I help him? Oh, Light, Rand. And she's totally thinking about gentling him. Like, I think she even mentions gentling him earlier in the chapter. Like, the only way to help him would be to gentle... Oh, right here she mentions it. The only way to help him is to gentle him.
But yeah, she's still on that because her 3 challenges in the 3 rings were all related to her failure in saving Rand, basically, in different ways.
Yeah, like her testing is still messing with her head so hard right now. Obscure, that's literally the only thing she can think to do for him, which I think is incredibly unfortunate because, like, she's so blinded by tradition and established precedent that she can't think of anything else to do for Rand. Like, it's one of her shortcomings. As much as I love her, it's such a shortcoming for her.
I mean, that's a problem in the entire Randland. Like, the idea that Aes Sedai tried for thousands of years to help these men. The most powerful, knowledgeable Aes Sedai in the world tried to help these men, and that resulted in the breaking. And this is sort of common knowledge lore that, like, there is nothing you can do for them. Literally nothing. And unless you know more than the most powerful Aes Sedai of all time, which you don't. So don't bother trying. And of course, you know, the only person who does actually try and, you know, breaks the rule is Nynaeve.
The only person who would believe that she could do better than the most powerful Aes Sedai of all time.
Exactly.
Arrogant ass, prideful ass, Nynaeve.
She does, of course, succeed.
She does, because she's also a badass.
Because she is possibly the most powerful Aes Sedai of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if there's some other Aes Sedai who may be higher on the power scale, I gotta say Nynaeve is probably more powerful.
The most talented, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely the most talented. I wouldn't say the most powerful in the actual power sense of it. But
definitely not raw power, but raw power plus talent plus a willingness to use it plus the ability to be in the right place at the right time plus sheer stubborn
will.
Yeah, she's dogged and tenacious.
Like, if Nynaeve learned Tel'aran'rhiod, nobody could touch her.
No. No.
Like, I think Perrin and Egwene together would struggle to take Nynaeve in Tel'aran'rhiod.
You know, I gotta say, on the other hand, I might disagree with you on that.
Really?
Because Nynaeve does doubt herself sometimes.
That's true.
And
sure,
Egwene never does. And that's why she is so powerful in Tel'aran'rhiod. She has never once in her life doubted that she is absolutely right in everything she does. Nynaeve has doubts.
Yeah, Nynaeve questions herself often.
Yeah.
But when she buckles down, there's no moving her.
So at this point, Egwene holds on to the ring and tries to kind of make it move her to
need. Well, okay, so she uses need. And later we hear that they're able to you can do that in Tel'aran'rhiod to take you to where you want to go. I don't think it has anything to do with the stone. I think channeling a trickle of power into it, all that kind of stuff is totally useless. I think it's just the fact that she closes her eyes, concentrates on her need, and takes a step. That's exactly what they do when they find the Bowl of the Winds.
Oh, yeah. She just doesn't know what she's doing.
Right.
She shuts her eyes and, like, hopes real hard. And then, well, you found your way at last, child. All sorts of answers here. Egwene's eyes snapped open. She stood in a great hall, its vast dome ceiling supported by a forest of massive redstone columns, and hanging in midair was a sword of crystal, gleaming and sparkling as it slowly revolved. She was not certain, but she thought it might be the sword Rand had been reaching for, in that dream, that other dream. This all felt so real. She had to keep reminding herself it was a dream, too.
Welcome to the heart of the stone, one of the most popular meeting places in the world of dreams.
Right?
Because nobody meets there in the real world.
There's so many meetings, it's frequently double booked.
And then people hang out behind the columns, listening to what people are saying. And yeah, it's... And, of course, this old woman is, can we all say it together?
Lanfear.
Oh, old Sylvie. Old child.
Man, I absolutely love the way that Kate Redding does her voice.
Oh, isn't it great?
God, Kate Redding is so good.
I mean, Michael Kramer and Kate Redding together just do a fantastic job.
Yeah, I've not listened to any other audiobook reader ever that does nearly as good of a job as they do.
I'm kind of ruined because there may be other audiobook readers that do as good of a job, but I still prefer.
But it's not them.
But it's not them. So
yeah.
like, it's, you know.
I don't want a new audiobook reader. I want my old audiobook reader.
I feel it. Like, I've listened to books on Audible and been like, this would be so much better if it was Michael Kramer and Kate Redding. Can I just have them read this book? They should just read all the books.
I mean, it's like, I'd say number 1, number 2 is Mike Kramer and then Kate Redding.
You think Kramer's better than Redding?
I think he's more consistent.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, we all know who number 3 is here. Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, thanks.
I'm sorry, I can't give you number 1 or 2.
I don't deserve them.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that Patrick is humble enough to know that he doesn't compete with the gods yet.
No, not quite. We're getting there, though. We're getting there.
That's one thing I love about you guys is, as big as this has become, you guys are still superhuman and super humble.
Oh, we are superhuman.
I mean,
superhuman.
No,
we're two nerds in the
superhuman is like
basement.
2 separate words, not superhuman.
Who are you? Egwene said. Just poor old Sylvie, my lady. The old woman cackled. I'm going to skip ahead a little. Sylvie, you said something about finding answers here. Oh, you come to the right place for answers, my lady. The heart of the stone is full of answers and secrets. The High Lords would not be pleased to see us here, my lady, oh no. But none but the High Lords enter here. And servants, of course. She gave a sly, screeching laugh.
Which is why Lanfear is disguised as a servant.
Yeah, the High Lords don't sweep and mop, but who sees a servant?
Another thing, since we seem to be pausing for a second, that I wanted to say about this whole scene was when they're talking about her face, and Lanfear, as Sylvie, admits that it's a ugly face, and she says, "Don't let it, my lady. It serves me. When I need it, as good as a prettier."
Oh yeah, I skipped over that part, but I had it highlighted as well.
Which is exactly the same thing that she says to Rand when she reveals that she was hiding in the waste as Kylie.
Right. She has no problem hiding out as an ugly woman.
Yeah. 'Cause nobody expects it.
She uses her attractiveness either in the negative or in the positive.
As a wit,
as a
yeah,
tool.
every time.
Yeah.
Because Lanfear is really pretty.
Yeah. Sylvie was hobbling toward the crystal sword. Plots, she said, as if to herself. All of them pretending to serve the Great Lord. Great Lord. And all while plotting and planning to regain what they lost. Each one thinking he or she is the only one plotting. Ishamael is a fool. And that's just Lanfear muttering to herself.
Absolutely. But it's also just purely Lanfear. Ishamael is a fool.
Totally.
Only Lanfear ever says that so vehemently.
Also, Seth put emphasis on it, but only Dark Friends and the Chosen call the Dark One the Great Lord. What? Egwene said sharply. What did you say about Ishamael? And then Lanfear plays it off like...
Well, just something poor folks say. And it's like, no, it's not something poor folks say.
Try it, my lady. Say Belzamon is a fool, and she does it.
Next thing I have is them addressing Callandor. I like how Sylvie smacks at it with her staff.
And there's like a protection around it so you can't touch it.
A barrier weaved from both powers.
And Egwene kind of tries to probe it with Saidar, and she describes it like a basket that's loosely woven, but she realizes that it's actually solid, but the parts she can't see are woven with Saidine.
She's lucky touching it with Saidar didn't have some serious backlash on her.
And that it's not trapped or something?
Yeah, I mean, because Rand when he takes it out and then puts it back in, he sets all sorts of traps around it.
Right.
I guarantee doing the same thing would have gotten her just wasted.
Obliterated, bale-fired out of nowhere.
I think at that point, Rand wants people to come after Callandor so that whoever comes and gets it will be killed by the traps that he leaves. But the people who originally put this here did something totally different, so that only Rand could
do anything
take the
with
sword
it
from the stone.
Mm-hmm.
When there was a trap he put on the ways so that when the Trollocs passed through it, they would be exposed to something and then die later. And it was this self-reset.
Leia brings up a really good point. As the weaves around Callandor, more proof for channeling in Tel'aran'rhiod.
No, because that's a reflection of the real world, and those exist in the real world.
But the weaves are there, and if the one power wasn't real in Tel'aran'rhiod, I don't think that those weaves would reflect. I think it would just be a block. You wouldn't be able to touch it. The effect of the weaves would be there, but the weaves themselves would not.
I'm shaking my head.
Headcanon.
Uh-huh.
It's okay. Leia agrees with me.
The next sentence I thought was really important is when Lanfear says, "What wouldn't one of the Forsaken give to hold Callandor?" And I think what she's doing there is basically giving away Balal's plans to Egwene, telling her that that's what Balal is planning to do. Like, try and bring Rand into the stone, have him take the sword, and then take the sword away from him.
Yeah. And I assume it's Balal that's showing up right after that. Footsteps echoed in the distance.
Definitely Balal.
He's coming to stare at it again, she muttered. Awake or asleep?
Do you think it's Balal, or do you think it's Rand?
Balal.
I think it's Balal. I mean, we never see the person, but I just assumed it was Balal.
She's talking about the Forsaken. She's talking about their plans. She's talking about how desperately the Forsaken want it. And I think what Balal is doing is he goes there in his dreams, stares at the sword, and then projects those dreams to Rand to try and get him to come for it.
I'm shrugging.
Yeah. Well, Sylvie kind of ushers her out. And here's the part that we were talking about a little bit earlier. She's like, oh, you have to go. It won't do if he sees you here.
See, and why would it matter if Rand saw her there? It wouldn't. But it would matter if Balal saw her there.
He'd do something about it.
I think that it would matter if Rand saw her there, because I think it's less that it would matter that Rand saw her there and more that Lanfear doesn't want Egwene to be there when she reveals herself to Rand.
It could be. We don't know who's showing up, but I assume it's Balal.
I'm on Team Balal.
No, I'm totally, I'm not firmly set. This is not a hill I'm willing to die on. I don't care one way or the other.
Well, while Sylvie is, saying, oh, you have to go, I'll get you out of here, and Egwene says, well, just show me the way, or tell me, there's no need to push me, there's no need to push. And then the old woman's fingers had somehow gotten tangled around the stone ring. Don't touch that, Sylvie. Safe in your bed, Sylvie says. Pain annihilated the world. Perspective switch as Egwene wakes up. And that made me wonder, and is, probably more just open speculation, but that made me wonder if, so we saw Lanfear in the last time we saw Lanfear really eyeball the stone ring. And when she's kicking Egwene out of Tel'aran'rhiod, she does do something to the ring. And that just made me wonder if the ring makes it harder to push someone in or out of Tel'aran'rhiod against their will.
Maybe. I mean, it's a literal object of the power that's holding them in Tel'aran'rhiod.
And
yeah.
I think that Lanfear is separating
her connection.
The connection between the two of them.
That's what I thought. I thought she does something with the ring.
See, I'm not necessarily convinced that she does something with the ring, because later, I don't know if it's in this book. I think it's in the next book. It is in the next book. When Egwene is with the Wise Ones, and I think it's Amis she promises Amis not to enter Tel'aran'rhiod without her permission or without her there to teach her. And then, like, she's talking to Elaine, and suddenly she's, like, ripped out, and she's forced to, like, confront Amis, and Amis, like, does this crazy thing where she, like, turns her face into a monster's face, and then she pulls Egwene out of Tel'aran'rhiod for real. Like, I just feel like it has nothing to do with the ring. It's just being a talented dreamer. You can force somebody into or out of the world of dreams.
I think you could, but I also think... But at that point, she's not using the ring, right?
No, she was using the ring then.
She does carry it with her.
I don't think that she has given the ring up yet.
When does she give up the ring?
At some point, she gives it to Elaine, because she doesn't need it anymore during her training.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought it was pretty early on in her training.
Oh, you know what, Lauren? For some reason, I feel like you might be right. It might have been when they went their separate ways in Tyr, when Egwene decided to go to the Waste and they decided to go to Tenchiko. So she might not have the ring in that particular part with Amis. You might be right.
That's what I was thinking, is that, like, yeah, she can pull her out of the dream because she's just in the dream on her own.
Right.
Whereas what Lanfear has to do is actually cut that connection because she's using an object of power.
Somebody in the chat said something about severing the body contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. We'll stick with that. With a throat-wrenching shriek, Egwene sat up in the dark, sweat rolling down her face. For a moment she had no idea where she was, and did not care. Oh, light, she moaned. That hurt. Oh, light, that hurt. She ran her hands over herself, sure her skin must be scored and wealed to make such a burning. She could not find a mark. We're here, Nynaeve's voice said from the darkness. We're here, Egwene. She's happy to be back. Elaine lights all the candles in the room. Well, save she lights one with something match-like, and then just smiles and lights them all at once.
Flint and steel, I think is what it was.
Yeah, kind of silly aside, but Robert Jordan used a word here, spill.
And the spill she had lit with the flint and steel in the other.
Yeah, it made me think that's like, well, I could speculate, but I could also Google it.
It's probably like a piece of wood or something that catches fire with a spark like very easy.
Pine resin or something.
Yeah. But I do have that whole little piece highlighted right there, that whole paragraph from when Nynaeve calls out to Elaine and to when she lights the candles, because it's like she could have just channeled it. She has enough control with the one power, and I think that's what Nynaeve was telling her to do, was channel us some light. But it's not first instinct for Elaine yet, because she's still so new to the power to do things with the power.
Oh, yeah.
She's getting there.
So I just Googled it, and a spill is, it's pretty much a primitive lighter, so like a piece of wood coated in pine resin or something that you could put a spark on. And
so she says, hey, we need to learn from that experience. Wake me up after an hour or a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't know how to get the hell out of there. Because she has no exit strategy at this point. So she says, you guys need to wake me up, because otherwise I don't know how to get out.
I don't have much after that. Nynaeve asks what happened. Egwene relays the story.
She doesn't tell Elaine and Nynaeve about Perrin and the wolves. And that's something she actually knew about previously, as Travis, you pointed out, because she encountered the wolves.
In the steading.
Yeah, in the steading with the same time Perrin did. She was right there with him.
She knows Perrin doesn't want people to know about his weird
Yeah, she respects that it's his secret.
Right. And so this seems to give them confirmation that whatever is going on with the Black Oddjaw is in the heart of the stone.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily get that from what she encountered, but, I guess Callandor is the right pull.
Yeah. Well, they seem set after this. They're going to Tyr.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, everything is pointing them to Tyr. Everything is. I mean, granted, all of it is set up by...
And by everything you mean Lanfear.
By Lanfear, but every clue that they have been able to find and deduce is pointing them to the Stone of Tyr.
Elaine says, "It does not change the trap," she said. "If it is not a diversion, it is a trap." Nynaeve smiled grimly. "The best way to catch whoever set a trap is to spring it and wait for him to come, or her, in this instance."
Yeah, but you have to be well armed, right? Like, don't take 3 novices and put them up against 13 black Aja and just jump into the trap. You get backup.
Right, Nynaeve. You can spring the trap, but then you're trapped.
Right.
Is the problem.
Well, I think that she's hoping to spring the trap without actually being in the trap. Like, I think of like a mouse trap or something where she like uses a stick to push the button.
Right.
That would be ideal. But I think what ends up happening throughout the series is she just shoves her hand right into it.
Right.
Yeah, she just grabs the cheese every time.
Yeah.
No regard for her fingers.
And then when the hunter shows up, she just beats them up with the trap.
Pretty much. You're going to tell me how to get out of this one way or the other. If I have to beat you all the way through the Stone of Tyr and back.
So they make a decision to take off, and then they just have a few things they need to take care of before they go. Importantly, sending a letter to Queen Morghese from Elaine.
Yeah, Elaine is concerned that her mom will flip out again if she doesn't at least send some kind of letter. So they're trying to figure out how to do that without people knowing what they're going to do. And
Matt's got a ticket to fly.
Yeah, and Nynaeve eventually comes to the conclusion that they have one person that they can hand a letter to who will be happy to deliver it all the way to Camelin, if only to get the hell out of there.
Because, he wants nothing more than to be as far away from the White Tower as he can be.
Oh, yeah.
They're already considering using the papers
Mm-hmm.
to send the letter that they have from the Amyrlin.
Yeah.
So, that's ideas in the front of their mind when they go and meet up with Matt tomorrow.
About the letter, and keeping it away from the Amyrlin's attention, because that's another thing, Elaine's side. The Amyrlin does not know that I am one of you. I have to find some way to send it with no chance of her seeing it. And I just highlighted it and just wrote LMAO next to it because...
Right.
Oh, right. I had that thought when I was reading through, too, that they don't think Swan knows that Elaine is a part, but it's been, like, from that very first conversation.
Right.
She had every
that was actually her
intention of
plan.
roping Elaine.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
exactly so.
She has plausible deniability is all she's going for there.
Right.
Yeah.
She won't order Elaine to do it, but she knows Elaine will.
And then when Egwene says something, Elaine was like, I wish I sounded as confident. Or Egwene says, I wish I sounded as confident as Elaine. And it's just kind of the same running trope between the girls that the boys have with each other.
Right. I wish I was as good with women. I wish I was as confident.
Yeah, exactly.
And like we see like Avienda, like I'm glad I'm never scared the way Avienda is never scared.
But
Yeah.
Avienda's like
Water.
constantly terrified.
Right, constantly terrified. And constantly being like, how do I live up to the example these wetlanders are setting for me?
Especially with Elaine. The relationship between Elaine and Avienda is amazing.
They do a really good job of becoming
I was
friendly.
just about to say, I was thinking about this recently, and I can't wait to get to the part where there's like, for like half a book, Avienda's like walking while sharpening her knife so that Elaine can skin her.
I think it was
sleeping with Rand or something.
Yes.
I don't think we ever see the exact reason, but she spends all this time honing this knife so that she can present it to Elaine.
That was totally it. Yeah, she carried like a knife, a switch, and a club or something, and laid them all at Elaine's feet and was like, have your way with me because I have toe.
And she was sharpening the knife because she wanted it to be a clean cut.
Like, hooked up with your guy, so...
Meanwhile, Matt's watching, thinking the entire time
weapon.
that Avienda's prepping the knife
To kill Elaine. Yeah, because they both have interest in the same man.
Right.
Well, if I just kill her, he's all mine.
I'll do the readout. Nynaeve, Egwene said in a small voice, I don't want to be alone tonight. It pained her to make that admission. I don't either, Elaine said. I keep thinking about the Soulless. I do not know why, but they frighten me even more than the Black Aja. I suppose, Nynaeve said slowly. I don't really want to be alone myself. She eyed the bed where Egwene lay. It looks big enough for 3, if everybody keeps her elbows to herself. Later, when they were shifting about trying to find a way to lie that did not feel so crowded, Nynaeve suddenly laughed. What is it? Egwene asked. You're not that ticklish. I just thought of someone who would be very happy to carry Elaine's letter for her. Happy to leave Tarvalin, too. In fact, I'd bet on it.
I just love that they said I'd bet on it, because
Yeah.
that's Matt. There's no questioning who it was after she says that.
Not to mention the next chapter.
Astral, if you don't knock it the hell off, dude.
Timber, you're a good boy.
Thanks, Seth. Just rub it in.
He's lying here quietly at my feet.
Astral just wants to be on the podcast too. That's what I've decided.
Your cat can be the Tel'aran'rhiod of the podcast.
All right.
If Timber's nameless, I think that's fair.
She's the hand of the shadow, huh?
That'd be a good name for a cat.
All the kittens have lost their mittens, and now you all must buy. And now you all must buy.
Tel'aran'rhiod would be an awesome name for a cat.
So here is a very obscure shout out. Has anyone else ever read the webcomic Sluggy.com?
I haven't.
Okay. This was like a really obscure webcomic that is...
Bambi's requesting a link. I think that's fair.
Something like... Sluggy.com. It's a really, really old webcomic. Started in like 98. So I think it just hit its 20-year-old. And he's been doing daily comics for most of that time. And of course, the artwork starts out terrible, but it gets better. And it is ridiculously complicated. And I think Wheel of Time fans may enjoy it if you like webcomics.
Noted.
It's an investment.
That's exactly what I need, is more things to distract me while I'm on the computer at work. I spend a lot of time on Discord at work.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. I would love eventually one day, like, if I ever can make it up to Portland, to, like, meet you guys in person.
Oh, yeah. You're from California? We can cut that out.
California. I don't care. I have nothing to hide from anyone.
Okay. Well, you know.
Yeah, whenever... This is an open invitation. Like, if you're ever in Portland, send us a message. Look us up. We'd love to get a beer with you.
Definitely, yeah. We'll stop by Universal or whatever.
Yeah. And if you don't drink beer...
Which I don't.
We'll get coffee with you. We'll get a soda water with you.
I don't drink beer. I think that all beer is vile, TBH, but...
Do you not drink, or do you just drink liquor?
I drink on occasion. Last night, actually, I made margaritas for my warder and a friend. But I normally... Nice. I don't drink beer. I just think beer tastes gross. I've never found a beer that I could like.
It's not for everyone.
And then, like, people tell me, oh, it's like...
Travis, I'm sorry. We're going to have to end this call. We're having some technical difficulties.
Seth is the biggest beer guy.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?